Well, I think the last time we were all together, I talked probably about getting to camp and all the things that, why I was excited, what to do. And so now a little bit of full circle to say leaving camp. And what did we learn in, I don't know if it's 3 months or 3 weeks or whatever it is, kind of the fun part of training camp is just absolutely being in the moment of the day. And so there was a lot. Talked about emerging roles, over the, we had to wait till the padded practices to see what some of that would look like. We talked about where some of the young guys' development would be and have a vision of what that could look like. The other piece was just, I thought a great example in practice the other day. I thought it was competitive and good, and it was really a lot of guys expressing to themselves and to others how we play and how hard we want to go compete. I think that's such a valuable lesson for the young player to learn how far you can push it, to really be where you want to. Thinking of a play in the red zone where I thought Hooker and Curse were really wide open every bit they could to go for it. There was another play of all the plays I just tried to show some of the young ones to say, this is what it looks like. And if you really want to push it and express yourself to how we can play, there should be some examples of that. And so we don't get that in an OTA. We don't get that in that space. This is where it goes down. And no finer guys to go against than some of the players on the offense to really show that they can do it. And so that's why I thought it was kind of a full circle couple weeks to say, getting here, why I was excited to get here, and then leaving here, why am I excited to see roles emerging, young players developing, the standard of competition that we expect to really get our skills right, because that's how you have to go. And so I thought those three things stood out to me over the last few weeks to say, what are we leaving here with? And that stood out to me.
Clarence Hill, Forward Star Telegram. The fights aside, your defense seems to play with an edge. Fights, as Micah said, a bunch of dogs. Are they like that? Do you make them like that? Did you bring them here like that? Just talk about that whole mentality of what you got on defense.
Yeah, I think, regarding the fights, the topic I discussed with them yesterday, you really are trying to find an edge. And sometimes when you're finding it, you have to go off it to see how far I can really, push it to go. So you have to fall off the cliff some to find where your edge is. But those are the moments that you do it in practice to find, not just fighting, I'm saying the real speed, the real competitiveness. We do have to take care of one another. And at the end of it, that's our bond to one another, and we push each other to get better. And the old phrase of, iron sharpening iron, I think that's so true for a football team in a training camp setting to say, we are on that space together, but can we push one another to really see how good we can get? And so moments like that, when you go over, that's fighting. You fell off the cliff, you went to the edge too far. But there was lots of plays yesterday that were really competitive, going as hard as you can, safely done. And those moments are important too, because that's where you find where I can set that edge too of how I compete and how I go. And I think if you asked all the players, they would agree that days like that where the competition is really at its most intense in a controlled environment, we all need that. And I thought that was a good example of that yesterday. But getting back to your original question of it, it's something that you have to talk about every day. It's not, okay, we just add one player, add one thing. I think the standard and the energy that the team can play with, that's at the top of the pile, the top of the list, and you had better make it part of our identity. So every time our friends and family and fans watch us play, they say, these guys get it on. And you can't take a day off from that.
Dan Tyler with ESPN. Do you pull Micah aside at all and say, the hand is never going to beat the helmet in a punch?
Yes. And I think it's true, not just for him, but for all of the ones to say, hey, this isn't the space for that, and competitiveness or not, we find ways to not do that. And so it's unfortunate sometimes you don't want that to happen. You want to be control and not lose it on the top of that. So it's not tricky, but when you're really competing as hard as the guys are, and you guys saw that on the field yesterday, offense, defense, the team sport, the competing, that is who we are. And you just have to learn, I can't go over the edge. I can't fall off the cliff. I have to stay right at that moment. And I'd say by and large, he and others have shown we can do that. And having some punches thrown yesterday is not what we want, but we fell off, but we know we can get right to that edge.
DQ, Patrick Walker, DallasCowboys.com. from your standpoint, what do you see from Mozzie Smith exiting Oxnard versus the Mozzie Smith that came into Oxnard?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for the line of scrimmage players, it's the big guys, it's the pass rushers. The game is different with pads. And so now that we're pushing to see, yes, that's it, examples from a period of a 9-on-7, a padded practice to say, that's this technique, that's the one that you have to go with. And so we keep trying to find those windows, find the moments, not just for Mozzie, but I think for all of the front seven. It's Demo. And in a lot of ways, I've been really proud of Damone Clark. He didn't have a training camp to go through last year. And to see the two of them together, I texted them both last week. I felt their energy, I felt their speed on the field in the game. And I think that's kind of a cool thing to have. I know they're not in the same class, but they're both, you know, learning some things in this camp together because of Damone not going through that together. So those players with pads, that's stuff to go. I've seen in the spring there's some hesitation when you're not sure. And so when you see the speed come out, now as a coach I know the hesitation's gone. And I've seen things not happen way more because of hesitation than speed. And so when guys can really go and really, you know, have the freedom to run and play and hit, that's the stuff that lights me up. And we'll see more of that as we're going, although, you know, we're leaving Oxnard. There's another moments next week. And I never felt like that's where your development stops at any player, just because you're leaving a training camp setting. Like, I'm hopeful that we'll say, man, by November, we're a lot better than we were in August. By December, we're better than we were in September. And I think if we keep pushing the guys in that space, we will get better.
Nick Harris, DallasCowboys.com. Usually when we've seen Leighton coming off the edge, we also see Micah Parsons lined up there at zero tech. Was that part of the same idea in the offseason, or was it two different ideas that kind of bridged into one?
I'm not familiar with that alignment.
What do you make of Leighton's ability to off the edge? What has he shown you here this summer?
I haven't seen a lot of it, but when I do see it, there's definitely improvement for sure.
Now that we're going back home, how would you assess how Mr. Parsons have performed out here?
Yeah, the guys that play multiple roles, guys like Micah and J-Ron and others, they really get taxed into this space because linebacker meeting, D-line meeting, safety meeting, linebacker. So it's part of the fun because we just get to stay and keep going through things together, and might be, hey, let's stay together after walkthrough and go through things. So we really push them to see what they can handle. And I thought coming back from the off season, Micah's skill is now, in a lot of things, really elevated. And so he was born with some really good talent in a lot of spots, and he worked so hard on some of the skill. I think we should all expect to see some jumps from him in this season. He's worked his ass off to get better, and it's shown in all parts of his game. And so he has really thrown a great training camp. I was really proud of the work that he's put in so far. You don't get to put that kind of work in here unless you put the work in before getting here. And he has really done that to push himself on the speed and the conditioning. So that is one of the things that jumps out to me.
Brad Stan, Cowboys Radio. You mentioned Clark. Where is he on what you expected to be his personal continuum when you got him?
Yeah, I thought it's so damn important to him in this offseason, early there to be there, push me, you know, more feedback. And when a player's in that space to find, you know, the moments, I want to get better, and you can tell he just loves it. And so I thought this trajectory would continue because seeing him, you saw the speed, the length, but some hesitation, not from anything other than just experience of seeing something to go. And so now, without that hesitation, all this speed and ability is just coming to life. And so that's kind of my favorite part of seeing his development, is matching the football instincts, the keys and the reads with all the talent. And so he's one of the players that has really thrown himself a training camp that, you know, he should be proud of.
And can you speak on Leighton's versatility and just what he hasn't shown in his career that you think he still can show?
Sure. Leighton, I thought, is another one. Through the offseason, really applied himself in every way. He came in a little bit lighter, and he's always been strong and long. So we feel more quickness, more speed for him. And another player that has just immersed himself in all parts of the front seven, knowing the responsibilities and the alignments of the other guys so he can really contribute more. So we really rely on him in a lot of ways. Covering tight ends, covering backs. We did a lot of that this training camp to push guys to see where we can go. We're fortunate that there's some tough guys to guard, and we were able to do that. But his versatility and adding to his game has been really fun to see.
Coach, for Deron Bland to come out last year as a rookie, late-round pick, and be able to have the impact that he's had, what are you looking from him from the year 2 standpoint, and what have you seen from him in his second training camp?
Yeah, that's a great point. We're talking about Deron. It probably refers, if I just go back a step, you hope by November the player's better than they were in August. And I think Deron Bland lived that. Not to say he wasn't doing well, but we were sprinkling in some nickel. We were playing him outside, but sprinkling that in. And so then a little bit more, then a little bit more, then a little bit more. And so when he was called upon in his first call, he really responded. And this offseason, we've done him 2 spots again to say nickel and outside. And so he's a really valuable guy for us. He is a wolf in sheep's clothing. The guy is an absolute competitor to his core, and he is really cool under pressure. The moments were never too big. Last year, I can remember Jordan being injured in a pregame and said, Bland, you're going to be up and we're going to go. Okay. It wasn't like, what are you talking about? And so that was a good sign for me to know that he wasn't just acting cool. Like, he was prepared. He knew if that moment came, he would be ready to deliver, and he did. I'm not certain. I think he might have made an interception in the game, in his first game to start. And so when you have guys like that are really prepared, but that type of competitor, I thought he's kind of one of the guys on our team that really, maybe they don't get all the news and attention, but they are really important about what we do.
Jordan, how important is it and how valuable is it to know that you're going to have Jordan coming back soon to join Bland, Gilmore, and Giggs?
Yes, we're so excited because for those of you who know Jordan, he is an absolute warrior, and he is one of our very best competitors. For those of you who've been around him and watched him play, so it's no surprise that a person like that attacked his rehab portion like he did, because this is a really serious injury that Jordan had, and so I can remember, I didn't hear from him, and the staff got in the car one day. We went to his house. We're like, hey, man, you pick up the phone when we're calling you. And hey, why are you guys here? We opened the door, and that was our way of saying, like, hey, man, like, you stay connected here. And when you're back to being off crutches and that, we want you in the picture because of your spirit and what you stand for. And so I'm not surprised going through the off season early in the morning, seeing him in the weight room, seeing him doing his stuff. And it'll be a really cool moment when he's able to get back on the field with his guys, because every single person in that locker room knows this is a true warrior, and he is part of that in a big way.
Last one, Todd. It looked like Damone had the green dot today, and I don't know if he maybe had done that earlier in camp, but how many guys do you want to have experience with the green dots just to have the contingency?
Yeah, I would say as often as we can, Todd, and also sometimes we'll do it like for a safety this week we did it. Hey, you're not going to call it in the game, but I want you to hear the process of what that sounds like. And so most of the guys, the linebackers and the safeties, that's, all of them at some point in this camp, Todd, have had that responsibility. As you guys know, in the game, there's 3 and how you use it. So during the week, we can do more based on, equipment guys and bucking the guys can do a good job changing helmets and moving. But every once in a while, like this past week, I gave it to a safety who hadn't had it before. I said, I don't want you to make the call, but I want you to hear my process and the alerts that I give to the player before a snap, not before a snap, but before, when I'm giving the call, remind the corner of this, tell the defensive line this. So he's kind of my messenger, not just the call, but also what are some alerts? Hey, on the last play, remind so-and-so this. Okay, and so it's that communication is super important. I think I never want to be the first time somebody's doing it is in the game.
Awesome.
Sure.
Follow up. So you're talking about nickel. Kelvin Joseph, how is he doing in the nickel, and what in particular do you think he has the skill set to?
Yeah, I think one, he's really doing well, and we are really excited to see the work he's put in. He is really strong inside, and sometimes you get to get your hands onto people, and that's one of his strengths. He's a strong, tough blitzer. We found that out. So, yeah, it's been a good addition, much like we did Deron outside and inside. He's been inside to outside. And so it's been a good addition for him, added not just for the team, but for himself too. And as you know, sometimes the injuries happen like they did last year, and the shuffling has to begin. So I think the more we train when we're healthy at different spots, then you're ready for when that adversity comes. Now, it's not, hey, we're going to make a big change. Yep, I've done that job. We've already played some of that. So there's some planning that goes in it, but he's really responded to that.
Thanks, Dan.
All right, you guys have a good one.